start of it in old New York.
I'm honored. I'm talking to you live from Puglia, which is the heel of the boot in Italy, where I live. Beautiful land near the sea, facing Greece. It's a farm. There's a lot of organic stuff growing all over the place. I just came out of the garden. I have like 2 tennis courts worth of organic, homegrown everything that you could think of, from pumpkin to zucchinis to cauliflowers to kale, all different types of salads. We have walnuts over here. We have grapes. We have apricots and apples and strawberries and almonds. And so it's all, we're living basically off the grid.
I was just going to say, are you self-sufficient?
Pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't say self-sufficient because I got my own well, even though it's like 375 meters down below to get the water, but I need currently I'm still using energy to get water out of the well. We have solar panels, but it's not enough. The place is huge. So we still run energy from the electric company. We're trying to resolve that through alternative energy, but one day I guess we will. Right now, you know, it's still, I mean, if it goes away, we'll still live. Let's put it this way. And if COVID still continues to leave a collective hypnosis on this planet, then I guess we're safe.
A collective hypnosis?
Yeah.
So how, could you elaborate on that?
Well, the media has a very strong potential to drive people, to make them lose their north, to make them forget who they are and have their own capacity to judge things for what they are, for face value. And I see it here in Italy because Italy has been hit so heavy and so quick, how the media has managed to take people astray and create a mess. And now we're just coming out of it over here, and I still see the residues basically of people, how they're reacting to their day-to-day lives, and socially how they're conducting a relationship that used to be so open. You know, Italians are very loving people. They kiss people and hug people. It's a culture that's very pleasant to be around because of that, because the people are so warm. And to see people that are so warm by nature being like frozen by fear, that's the worst this virus could do. I guess, you know, fear is the worst. How could fear cannot coincide with health. So you cannot be healthy yet fearful. It's impossible. You need to be healthy, and the fear kind of slips away. At the end of the day, all roads lead to the same direction. It's how you take it. You know, that's how I live my life.
Yeah.
So as I said, in Italy over here right now, they're battling coming out of this pandemic, and the results are that, you know, people have been lied to. The tests are not what they seem to be. The hospitals weren't really reporting the cases the way they are. Politicians have their own agendas. Promises were not kept, and people are pretty frustrated. And already they've embedded in the collective consciousness that it's coming back. It's coming back.
Right.
September, October, November. They didn't know it was coming. They didn't know how to take care of it. Here. Yeah, now they're already talking about a second wave, which it's just so crazy. And they're getting people to be so scared that all they want is this vaccine that could save them. And vaccines have proven to be, you know, inefficient, and basically have proven to make so much damage and get a lot of really sick people in powerful places. So there is room for a vaccine when it's needed. I'm not against a certain type of vaccine, but the whole vaccine phobia that's happening currently, and the whole apps for surveillance and all this kind of world, the way it's shaping.
The contact tracing.
Yeah, that and 5G, et cetera, et cetera. This whole thing is it freaks me out more than the virus itself. You know, I personally have seen more fear than anything, and you know, I believe in the human race. I believe in our ability to thrive, and what's happening right now, it seems like so crazy. We're living in such fragile moments, and massive opportunity at always surfaces when there's so much crisis. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's a quote that's common here by people called, you could say, conspiracy theorists or whatever, but I forgot who said it, but you never want to waste a good crisis. There's always opportunity
Right.
that spawns from that. And what's fearful more than anything is the government could have placed in certain provisions during the pandemic because of the pandemic. But even when it ends, you think they're going to give that power back and say, oh, no, it's suspended until the next pandemic. Once the power is there, the power stays there.
Yes, exactly. We've seen that in the Patriot Act. When I was in New
just-
York in 2011, 2001, sorry, I shot the Twin Towers come down. I used to live in Tribeca right underneath them. So I was there in 9/11. My footage went on the news. That's when I started doing documentaries. And I saw the whole effects of how everything, it just doesn't stick. You know, there's other people who are capable and more in tune and capable of talking about these kind of things. Me, I just, then I went on and made many documentaries. I held a TV show in Italy called Mysteries, and we did a lot of documentaries about certain subjects that seem to be very actual right now, you know, whether they're the Masonic lounges we did, or the Illuminati, the Bilderberg groups, or whether
Bilderberg
there's
Group.
yeah, we did that. We did chemtrails. We did subliminal messages. We've done, you know, OGMs and Vandana Shiva, David Icke. I interviewed all these people back in like the 2000s. And everything they were saying back then, I interviewed Jose Arguelles before 2012, you know, Graham Hancock. And so I had the pleasure of
Okay.
meeting minds that were indicating towards a reality that for us was almost fiction. But now that fiction has become reality. And everything is changing so quick that yesterday's illusion is today's reality. And what I fear the most is when we take away our liberties as human beings to have our privacies and our freedoms, or then for me that's just not sitting right. And I hope that people kind of wake up, because it is a massive wake up call. And it's also clearly showing the ones that are sitting in places of power how incompetent they are, and how much they're basically being controlled by the big pharma, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is I mean, I look at the news in the United States today, and it's like a reality show. It's pretty ridiculous to see the United States, and also to see the United States, the big America, the symbol of freedom and power, the land of opportunities, going down that sort of like rabbit hole right now. It's scary. It's scary in a way, because they set an example for the rest of the world. So, you know, it is great moments of opportunity. It is a perfect storm, as Rogan says, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's I listened to every episode of his podcast, so very familiar with Graham Hancock. And also, I feel like my research skills kind of suck a little bit, because when you mentioned your show Mysteries and you're talking about the Bilderberg Group, the Illuminati, I was like, how did I miss this? Because I could have probably had a whole bunch of notes written down on those topics to talk to you about. What was your experience like shooting those? What did you learn? What was fascinating about
Well,
documenting?
you know, back in the days, I remember the first, it's a long time already ago, but like back in 2006, I think, there was a movie called Zeitgeist.
Yeah, I used
You
to
remember that one?
I used to invite my friends over and have showings of Zeitgeist when I
Right.
was 18 or whenever how old I was when it came out. Sorry,
So
keep going.
I started studying these cases, and in 2000 2008, was it eight? I think I was doing a lot of acting back in the days, and in 2008, I was kind of sick and tired of playing roles in irrelevant movies and contributing towards collective ignorance. It just didn't seem like the right thing to do. So I took a year off. I came here to the south where I live, and I went back to my teaching. I used to be a yogi back in the 90s. And I wanted to understand, dive deep inside, and learn and educate myself. So I took a year off, and I went back to the land, to cultivate this land that I live on, and studied a lot through the internet about all sorts of subjects and topics. And I felt drawn and to try to communicate and touch upon certain subjects that I felt were relevant, even though I knew I was going to get ridiculed. I was willing to be put on the cross because I felt that, the mass are going to continue doing what the mass are doing, kind of sleepwalking and whatever, being statistics. But the ones that can actually affect change are there, and they're going to listen if they're tuned in. And so I chose to come back to work and take that job that was on mainstream television here in Italy, on Berlusconi's channel of all others, and touch upon those subjects because I just thought it'll be interesting if they'd even know, like signoraggio. I don't know how you say it in English, signoraggio. It's like how the banks kind of creates debt, how they loan money, how they print money, so I did a big show about that, or how basically things are run from a top. And I had a certain amount of people that I listened to that were able to influence me, which were, as I mentioned before, Jose Arguelles or Graham Hancock, or was it David Icke at the time, McKenna.
I'm not familiar. I'm not sure I'm familiar with Jose Aguirre.
Jose Arguelles was the guy who was behind the Mayan calendar.
Okay.
He was the guy who predicted 2012. He was the guy who brought back the ancient Mayan calendars, the Tzolk'in, which is a 13-moon calendar. And it's crazy, we can't like this, huh?
It's fun.
I know.
It's fun.
I know, it's like impossible. And this guy was a brilliant mathematician from Princeton. And
just so people are clear, you're having some technical difficulties lighting a cigarette, I believe, right now. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm trying to write, organic cigarette. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So he was, he sort of like, back in the days, it was Terence McKenna who invented this machine. He called it the novelty machine. It was time wave zero. And it indicated, it was based on the novelty, the amount of novelty that mankind has made. And Jose Arguelles came and he kind of like decoded the Mayan calendar, and they both kind of reached this date of 2012. And Jose Arguelles kept on insisting that we're living time in a wrong way, that time should be lived as art. And he kept on like using very simple matters to explain that, Monday's energy is not the same energy we have on Friday. And, Saturday night.
I think everybody will agree with that.
Right. And when we're stuck in traffic and we spend 3 hours in traffic, it's not the same time we spend 3 hours at a bar with friends or watching a game.
So people always say time flies when you're having fun. I can't believe that was 3 hours. How did that go so fast? So yeah, that's a concept we might have experienced, but we never verbalized. Sorry. So
this concept of time fascinated me, of how his time was not just a vertical time, like from point A to point 2. It was also horizontal time, the quality of time. So in that frequency of quality of time, knowing what is basically where you fit in will make you understand why you feel and act in certain ways in certain times in certain places. And it's pretty complicated, the Tzolk'in and calendar. And I don't want to get into the Mayan calendar because I'm not the person to talk about that. But anyway, that started a whole quest and a whole seeking. And that led me to wanting to check different ideas and concepts and thoughts and patterns. That eventually actually led to ayahuasca. Yeah, so that's basically how it all happened. After that show of mysteries, I went on a long track. I did 2 seasons. I done like 20 shows, and then again, I got fed up with the entertainment business.
Is there
So
a
I
place where
decided to go.
is there a place where people could view it? Is there English dubs, by the way? 'Cause I think you said it's
No, I don't. I don't think so. I don't think the
Of course.
network has ever released it in English. But
sorry. I'm sorry to watch you struggle with that cigarette.
it doesn't matter. Yeah. So then I decided to take some time out, and I had signed on my last film, my last feature film, which was a French film called Special Forces. So we shot on the border of Afghanistan and Tajikistan, up in the Pamir Mountains. And that was a fascinating place I've always wanted to visit. So I decided to stay when the crew and cast left. They left on military planes, and I stayed alone. Crossed into Afghanistan, the Wakhan Valley, and I walked basically from Afghanistan into Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, China, crossed into Nepal, tried to make my way into Mount Kailash, got really sick. This trip lasted 3 months on the road, basically alone. And then my brother was in Goa at the time. He suggested I'd come visit him. I was very sick. I had pneumonia, and managed to get off the mountains. I was in Annapurna, so I was like stuck in a monastery at like 5,000 meters, and it was pretty hard to get down to sea level. Once I got down to the mountain, down off the mountains and into India, there was a shaman there, and she was talking about ayahuasca. And I was familiar about ayahuasca topic through Terence McKenna, and it was something I really wanted to check out. So I said, yeah, I'm totally game. Let's do it. She said if I was vegan, as I am today, so there was no problem with the food. I didn't have any sex. You know, they always ask in ayahuasca sessions if you've had sex and all that. They want you to stay away from sex. I didn't have any sex because my girl was home. I was walking for 3 months. Took no drugs. Wasn't even smoking joints at the time. So it was like, okay, I was all clear to go. The only thing I had was my lungs were full of water and mucus. So I started drinking ayahuasca, and within a day of drinking it, I signed up to her with this shaman for 6 nights in a row of drinking ayahuasca. And by the end of the second night, all the mucus that I had in my body was vomited out. It was so intensely cleansing that I even went for a jog on the beach. And the next 4 nights were just like a breakthrough, a shortcut to nirvana. Conversations with God, insight into my ancestries, or it was like a download, which was an experience that unlike no other. I mean, having come from yoga and meditation and all sorts of esoterical practices, this to me was almost like was collecting all the knowledge I've had up to that date and putting it into one little glass. And it was so overwhelming that I came back to the real world and asked my mother if she wants to join me in some sessions of ayahuasca. So she agreed. My mother is a very brave woman, and she was suffering at the time, a bit of depression, and she needed some clarity. So I brought her over. She was living in Mexico. I flew over to Italy. I got that same shaman from India and flew him into Italy, and we sat together with my mom for 5 nights of drinking. Then I watched my mother recover from her trauma and get her life back together. Even though she'll never drink again, the effects of the ayahuasca on my mom was so strong that it convinced me that there was something there, and that I need to dedicate some time towards this and go deeper. So I flew to Peru and started kind of chasing this idea of wanting to make a film. At the time when I arrived in Peru, I was all Googled eyes. You know, I thought, oh, I found the hot water. the invention of the wheel. I gotta communicate this with the world because there's something so potent here that, you know, if every heads of state, they would drink it, or any politician or any leader would drink this, the world would be a better place. That was kind of the objective, right? And so I felt close to the Shipibo community of Santa Rosa de Dinamarca. I met a bunch of shamans over there and started hanging out with them, went on some diets, vegetalismo. I wanted to understand better the science of the plants. So in order to understand it, not just as a drinker, but by doing some extensive diets, living in huts alone in the jungle and meditating on it, and understanding how to tackle this. But then one night sitting in a ceremony, a tourist died while we were drinking. He was handicapped and he couldn't move, and he basically died of negligence. He had asphyxia. He suffocated to death, and the way this whole event sort of unfolded, it was a wake up call, and I understood that there's much more than what meets the eye. And looking into myself, I said I cannot contribute towards anyone else suffering because of negligence, because I realized that these shamans, so-called shamans, a lot of them are just cachaleros and brujos. I realized that the people that are around me were basically more interested in money, and I started to see things that at the beginning I wouldn't see, you know, that had nothing to do with the plant itself. The plant only needs water and sun in order to thrive and grow and provide. But the people that are handling it or serving it, they're not all that pure necessarily. And there's a lot of taboos here. And I also noticed that the local people are getting damaged by the Aya tourist. And it started to create this struggle within me of how am I going to try to portray a story. Now I'm invested. I've lived a year in Peru. I've spent a lot of money. I've shot a lot of film. What am I going to do here? How can I come out of this one? What's the right way to tell a story? And until I came up with this concept of, let's try to find a way to tell a story that it's not just the effect of ayahuasca on me, but what is the effect I'm causing on ayahuasca itself. So in essence, okay, I'm coming over there, but there's always going to be cause and effect. Me, I'm flashing my dollars. I got my iPhone and whatever and whatnot, and I'm coming into the jungle. And by being there and doing that, I'm affecting the local community and the trade of ayahuasca. And I've seen, you know, a lot of these new wave healers come in and out with their, you know, ideas of saving the world. It really set me in this existential question of what am I doing here, and how am I going to tell a story, and what's the right remedy, and to be honest about it, and not to contribute to the destruction of it, because I really love the plant. I really believe that plant could help people. I don't think ayahuasca is for everyone, but I think I think ayahuasca is for everyone, but not everyone's for ayahuasca. So that all came together when I met James, the
subject,
the main subject of the film. Yeah, the subject of the film that I followed for 3 years, because he seemed to have all the sensitivity, the intellectual gunpowder to hold the film on his shoulder, and yet he also represented where the youth were at that time. You know, time's changing quick. So 2010, but still now people are seeking for identity, seeking for some sort of guidance, some sort of meaning in this life that doesn't come from social media. It doesn't come from a like on your social platform.
Validation.
Something organic. Yeah, some sort of validation, exactly. And that doesn't come from having a better car or a fancier girlfriend or a nice apartment. They're looking for something that's rooted in truth, and he comes from a background of medicine and powerhouses of Harvard and going to Phillips Academy, and it just represented all that elitist.
His
That is
parents
so.
were like, what were his parents had some type of significant psychiatrist or
His parents are
something?
doctors.
Doctors.
Yeah, Harvard. Yeah, Harvard medics, psychiatrist. His father is an endocrinologist, meaning he studies thyroids. He's the best in the country. The mother is a psychiatrist. But and James went to McLean, which is the mental institution of Harvard. So it was just there in Boston, and it just all that was a perfect backdrop back to the story. And the fact that the kid gave himself a year, to find a shaman before he actually took his own life away was a dramatic setting for a perfect film. Now, I didn't know the outcome, how it's going to end, and I didn't understand depression to the extent of how it affects people until I started living with James and understanding actually how sick the guy is and how terrible that disease is, because it really handicaps you. We think, oh, a guy's depressed, poor him, but no, people that are depressed and got severe depression, they're really it's terrible. It's terrible to them. It's terrible to their families. It's terrible to everyone to watch. So he was perfect. And then when I found Pepe, who was a shaman that helped James at the end of his road, he had all the innocence and beauty that you would imagine a shaman would have. He had all the love towards the plant and the knowledge that was sacred. And he came from such purity. And it was clear to me that something was happening in that village because it was going through transformation. As business was becoming more and more affluent in that area, it affected more and more the local people. And you could see that, there were power plays going around and other shamans were getting jealous and the community was starting to get divided. And what's going on? My dog. And then it was just this, all the ingredients started to come together. I wasn't clear yet how, a lot of making documentaries happen in the edit room. We followed this film for 3 years, and then we edited for 2 years. It was a 5-year journey making this movie. It wasn't simple putting it together. But yeah, at the end, for those of you saw the film, so that's how it all came together. Yeah.
Have you spoke to James recently?
Last I saw James was at the premiere of the movie, and I spoke to his father, I think, over Christmas, maybe a year and a half ago. I know James became a doctor since. He lives in Colorado. Now he graduated from school. He's a smart kid. He's got a girlfriend, and I think he was on the right road towards recovering himself and having a fulfilled life, from what I know. But I've since then started other films, and I move on.
Right.
That's my job. I live with somebody. I make a documentary, and then move on to the next subject. And now I'm in India. My movie is about enlightenment, a completely different subject matter. I chose to go into the hippie trail, the 60s. Yeah, the last kind of flower childs getting lost in India and looking for nirvana. Yeah, that's the next film.
Well, what would you say so
it's crazy.
Enlightenment, how are you? Is it a religious study or?
No, it's just like, the ultimate goal of the spiritual path, whether it's Zen, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Hinduism, and then there's Advaita Vedanta or Dzogchen or whatever it might not be, is liberation, of suffering, the end of suffering, awakening, call it what you may, Siddhartha Gautama, call
emptiness.
it whatever. Yeah, oneness. but not conceptual, but actually this not thinking, oh, I'm going to be sitting under a tree. You know, even an awakened person still has to drive a car and get to work and pay his bills, or go to the temple and light a candle. It's not like, or deal with his family, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, unfortunately, all
But
those
I was drawn. I was very,
those
yeah,
other
they just
details.
don't take it personally. The difference is they don't take it personally. Yeah. There's no person. There's no one driving the bus. There's no one driving the bus, and their minds are pretty much in the now. They're not somewhere in the past, and they're not dwelling on the future. And so these guys from the '60s, I always envied those who could travel in the '60s, who could just freely roam the world and go into Afghanistan without worrying about Taliban and Iraq and Iran, and just travel to Pakistan and cross the mountains and go into Kashmir and Ladakh and down into Amistar, and then go into India and discover this Eastern philosophy and understand that there is something bigger than the industrial or the Western dream. And, you know, the spiritual revolution that was happening in the 60s or in 70s is basically what's lacking right now. And a lot of people are turning in, looking for answers, and not necessarily searching for answers out there. They know that everything they've ever looked for is inside. So I wanted to try to make a film about that. And this is a film I've been working on for 10 years. We're actually editing now. It follows 4 characters, an Australian guy, an Irish guy, an Italian guy, and a guy from Luxembourg, who all set out on foot to India, different reasons, different times. Got there, they all became holy men in India, and they all went through trials and tribulations of being a Western in India, you know, on the path towards enlightenment. Some of them became, they got the knowledge, they got the nectar. Others, they got into a whole load of trouble. And it's sort of a Shantaram kind of a movie. Pretty it's exciting, thrilling, entertaining, and enlightening at the same time. But that's the next picture. We'll talk about that in the next podcast in a couple of years from now when we're ready.
You know, I'm curious. Have you always had this side of you when that you're just so adventurous? So because you started with ayahuasca, but you were in the Tibetan mountains. So were you always, did you always have this side of you that was curious or open to these ideas?
Well, as a boy, I was lucky that my parents divorced, you know, and I got to travel a lot as a little kid, and that planted a seed of adventure and a seed of wanting to see the world. You know, I'm lucky I've traveled more than 100 countries, and I've lived with indigenous tribes. A couple of years ago, I was living with tribes all around the world, making a TV series for Sky.
That was Roz and the Tribe,
Tribe.
right? Sorry.
Yeah. And again, I've been drawn to ancient traditions and cultures and wisdoms. I've been drawn to understanding different points of views and educating myself through encounters and not necessarily through books. And I find that when I'm on the road, I have the best version of myself. And then I balance that out with living on a farm over here where the ideas are being harvested, and the editing process or writing process is at its best because there's no distractions. We don't have any traffic. We don't have any noise. We don't have any timetable. We're in sync with nature over here. Where we worship the moon or the sun or whatever it might not be that enhances our understanding and our ability to be sensitive towards this planet. And then we go out and we're empty. We go out there and we're as an empty vessel in order to fill ourselves up with things. And this thing of ayahuasca, it you know, my objective at that specific trip was to reach Mount Kailash in Tibet. And because I got sick and I couldn't arrive to Mount Kailash, which is the most sacred mountain in Tibet for the Buddhism, and it's a sacred mountain for the Hinduism, and it's the 7th chakra of this world. It's a very strong, energetic place. I didn't reach Kailash, but Kailash made me reach ayahuasca. It's strange. And ayahuasca made me go on a 5-year journey, and you know, this seeking of this, because James's movie, yeah, it's a movie that ayahuasca is the subject of ayahuasca, but it's really a movie about being reborn to what the essence of being human is. And the same is here. It's a continue. I think this next film, The Sadhu, is it's the same basically. People still searching for the meaning of life and searching for an understanding of who they are and how they belong in this world. And what do you really want? Do you want money or you want honey out of this planet? So I'm drawn to that. You know, we're only here for a short amount of time, and we start up our now I'm over 50, so life changes when you kind of let go of a lot of ideas and concepts that you have that you hold on to when you're a kid, and needing to prove something or become something, or et cetera, et cetera. And you just settle into being. And I'm at a place where I'm entertained by connecting to people that have lived lives that I find exciting, and they're simple people that their stories are bigger than fiction, and I feel that they deserve to be heard. So, you know, I made a film. I was involved in a film before I made The Shaman. I was involved in The Green Prince, which we won Sundance in 2014. It's a story of you know, a spy. It's a different type of story, but still, again, it's a story of friendship and of overcoming political or geographical borders, again, of thriving as a human being. And so I think we're at a moment where stories that can inspire you and can spark you up are important, and they deserve to be told. There's too much fear going on right now. That's where I'm at in this moment.
Beautiful. And
We're also working on a book.
really,
Yeah. We're working on a book right now, which will come out end of the year. It's a book of travels and journeys from my travels. You know, we collected. I have like an archive of around 200,000 photographs that I've taken throughout my journeys, and that started 40 years ago. And now we're putting it into a book. We have it's a challenge making a book. I've never made a book. It's like making a documentary, but it's this time it's personal because it's coming out of my soul. It's coming out of my journey teaching, and it's always different when you make something that's about yourself and when you're making something about others. It's like different when you're involved in cinema and you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. I find that my expression right now is my best expression right now is behind the camera, communicating to people and trying to extract from them the nectar. Yeah.
as far as what you see with how ayahuasca has become more accepted in the Western world, is it encouraging for you to see how people are becoming so much more open to it, and to see how it could potentially be used in like mainstream medicine, clinical trials, or however these?
Oh, it'll be amazing to see. It'll be amazing to see this being legitimized by the authorities, and it definitely has room for for post-traumatic stress, for depression. It has room for healing, for sure. And I know it's a big topic right now. This whole ethnogenics in health, and
But
I'm totally.
I have to ask you one thing. Did you ever hear of any type of ayahuasca effects on Alzheimer's?
No, I haven't. I have no
Okay.
idea. I've,
So,
I've, I've heard effects on cancer. You know, in Peru, the shamans claim they can heal anything. They say that ayahuasca has the potential to remove any sort of disease that we carry. And that, I can't believe that because I've drank it so many times. You know, I've drank it so many times that I've seen, and in groups and circles with a lot of people that weren't necessarily healthy, and I've seen the effects of it in a positive way. there's a lot of positive effects in ayahuasca if it's done correctly and if it's respected, and that could definitely create a better life for the one that's seeking change. The fact that it's being commercialized and sold and you know, religion, there's kind of like this religion organization around it, that
Mm-hmm.
sort of spooks me, you know. But I know that there's more ayahuasca consumed in LA over the weekend than there is in the Amazon, so that's kind of scary. I mean, are we going to be
Yeah,
able
who are
to?
those shamans running those ceremonies?
I don't know. Some of them I wouldn't let babysit my dog when she's here.
It's a big
But you know,
thing. It's a trust to
it,
reveal
it's a trust.
yourself.
Doing ayahuasca the proper way for me would always be the way that they taught me in the Amazon, and that's respecting the diets. Not eating certain foods, giving yourself an opportunity to be really clear about your intention. It all starts with your intention. What is your intention? Why are you drinking this? What are you really seeking? What do you want? So if you're focusing on your intention, then you will probably get it. And then it's about extracting the teaching from the ceremony and trying to bring it to play out in the day-to-day life. That's the hardest thing, because we all get enlightened during a ceremony if it goes well, and we all get downloads, but to convert that into an understanding that plays out in the real world, that is the ultimate goal. So I'm not going to become an ayahuasca freak addict that need to dive into a bottomless pit, because really, what are you doing? I've met people that told me, "Oh, I drank ayahuasca 4,000 times." I mean, why you continue to drink? I mean, what are you looking for? What didn't you find?
Right.
And I've met people that drank it once and vomited the hell out of themselves, whatever they needed to get rid of, and they were released of their demons. I had, when I started this film, I went to MAPS in San Francisco to meet Stanislav Grof and Ralph Metzner, and I had a conversation, and Charles Grove and a bunch of these amazing human beings. And I remember having a conversation with Ralph Metzner. And Ralph Metzner, for those of you who don't know, he was involved in the MDMA research in Harvard with Timothy Leary back in the days. He's one of the pioneers of alternative medicine. He's written numerous books. Amazing man. And he was like, look, when I first drank ayahuasca, I understand that I get rid of the shit. There's no need to analyze the shit. You got to see a psychiatrist. We're sitting over there all day and we're analyzing our own shit. And in an ayahuasca ceremony, we get rid of it. And I truly believe that is the case. It allows you to look at yourself in the mirror and clear the dust, and allows you to actually see what's going on without judging and without disguising or fear. It's not necessarily pleasant. It's not like you go to an ayahuasca ceremony and fear doesn't play out, or you can't necessarily have a bad trip or a bad experience facing your demons. That can happen, and I've seen it happen. But sometimes, in order to find the light, we must clear out the darkness. It's there all the time.
It's a great statement.
Yeah. No amount of darkness could take away any amount of light. That's for sure. So if you remind yourself that you are light, if you go into the ceremony with a clear intention, if you trust yourself, if you obey by the rules, it's very important to trust your environment, the guy who's providing the ceremony, the people around you. That's all going to influence you, the place you drink in, your state of mind. I mean, am I coming there angry? Did I have a bunch of booze before? Did I do other drugs before? Did I not respect the diet before? Did I just have a fight with my wife or girlfriend before? All these things, they can always influence the ceremony in one way or the other. Or am I very much clear, calm, conscious, and aware and intuitive, and that I can actually pick up the signs and pick up what's going on around me? That'll definitely help you get to some sort of place where you get the insight, where you get it, and then you get it and you want to keep it. want to keep it. And all these things, they need to be put in a place where you're able to actually do it. Because if you come in out of ayahuasca ceremony, you're jumping back in your car and you're stuck in traffic, and you're back in the rat race. It's sort of difficult for us to hold on to certain teachings. You know, I like to be in the jungle when I drink an ayahuasca, and I like to hear the animals and go into this sacred place, which is full of nature and spirits. They call it the vine of the dead. Ayahuasca. That's what it's called. Yeah. It evokes all the spirits, you know, ayahuasca being the mother of all the plants, the mother of all the spirits. It's important. These things are important to be respected. But yet, you know, I'm just a guy who made a film. I'm not any sort of authority over this.
But it's important to you create stuff, and it's important that you share that vision, and we're able to understand where you come from, because not everybody could do that. Most, you know, that's an understatement. So it's beautiful to hear.
What did you like? What did you like about the film? How was your experience with the film?
Well, actually, I had some issues with anxiety and like panic attacks, and I never had shit like that until months ago. And I did ayahuasca back in 2011, and I did it again in 2012 in Peru.
Where in Peru?
Cusco, both times.
I was in Peru in 2011 and 12, making the film.
Oh, that's awesome. Where did it take place? In Peru?
I was in Ucayali. In Ucayali, I was in between Pucallpa and Iquitos. So and the Amazon Park in Iquitos, and in the Ucayali River in Pucallpa. You're in Cusco, so you're in the mountains.
Yeah. Well, I went to Puerto Maldonado, the jungle over there, both times.
I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. I kayaked there from.
Oh, beautiful! The amount of adventures that you got. And then when I was going through this stuff, I was like, I need to like reset. I was like, I need a reset. So I looked up ayahuasca on Netflix, and I was like, oh, it's like the last shaman. This looks like it's about this kid that goes through this stuff. Like it's kind of similar to, and I had been mentally strong to. You know, I still don't think it has anything to do with strength or weakness or anything, but you know, I was a leader in the military. I've been a leader my whole adult life, really. I always take pride in, like, you know, that maybe it's like an ego thing or whatever, but being able to handle things. And just watched it and just watched how helpless he was, or how seemingly helpless he was. And you don't know, because I've helped people that had depression or had panic attacks and all this stuff, but you don't. But when but when you feel it yourself, you're like, what fuck? This is what it's like. And I've broken bones, and I'd rather break any bone than like be as like just my mind was whatever. It was going through some stuff, and then, you know, it's part of being human. And it just helped me realize that, and I felt like that documentary. Sorry, the dog's barking. The documentary helped bring the mental health aspect with the reset that ayahuasca does, this destruction of the ego. Like, because when I did it, I felt like my ego and what I felt was like, it was like a reset. It's like almost like a rebirth, because your mind has so many thoughts circling on top of each other. But I felt like ayahuasca took like everything, like all your insecurities or just whatever was kept circling, and it just like made everything so clear, and it helps you realize how it's okay. First, you're human, and you'll figure it out, or not that you'll figure it out, but it just helps comfort you. And I remember being really scared, and the shaman telling me, "This is okay, but do not. It's just going to show you who you are. You cannot be afraid of yourself." And then it was like the most incredible experience. And it felt good watching James help find his purpose. And it shows too, it's not just like a magic pill. People want to take, in Western world especially, magic pills to feel better and have something cure all. But part of it is personal growth when you're not on ayahuasca, and everything's like a system. You have to build yourself up outside of it, and while you're doing it, use it as a tool to help you become better. I mean, it's more than a tool, but so just
There's definitely no magic bullet. There's definitely no magic bullet. I mean, we hear of stories that people have one night sessions and they've cleared their disease and came out the other side alive and kicking. These stories do exist, but it's constant work. There is no magic bullet, and that's important to understand. And the higher the expectations, the bigger the fall, as so in life,
And what was really cool too, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
when James was he bought in, there was that level of trust that you saw, and he was working every day too to help support who was supporting him through his journeys, when he was like cultivating the plants, or he buried himself in the dirt. And it was just like, it's stuff at first glance you look at and be like, what is this guy's just in dirt? But there's something bigger than that. And I love how people are becoming more and more open to it, because if you spoke about ayahuasca 10 years ago, you get the books or whatever, and it's slowly becoming more and more accepted, and maybe it's part of like some type of evolution that's happening that we don't realize. I don't know.
Well, people are realizing. Yeah, there is. I said that before. We're living amazing times. We're living amazing times of change, and there is this sort of like evolution happening right now. In all this mayhem, there is this moment of amazing evolution. People are becoming more aware. People are becoming more conscious. People are becoming to see through the veil of ignorance and see through the matrix. People are seeking knowledge and insights that have been lost. Basically, they are going back to the source. I do see that there is this movement going around the planet of becoming more in tuned and in sync with nature and with other human beings. People are becoming there are communities that are thriving in all this. It's not like everything is bad, as it is right now. It seems to be the topic of the day. If you're not like jumping in and saying that hitting on all those buttons that are like out there right now that are causing so much mess, then you're out of the conversation. But there is another conversation that might not be on the mainstream TV, but it's a conversation of evolution, and it's happening. It is. People are in tune. People are waking up.
That's what we're trying to do, despite the media's best efforts.
Yeah, that's gonna hold. That's gonna stick for a while, and then it's gonna fade out. It is fading out. Now we'll see how it plays out. But these are exciting moments. These are exciting times. And when it comes to ayahuasca, just to go back into the topic of it becoming more available and more commercialized, and also in a way being taken seriously when it comes to treating people, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that people could actually go into that sort of practice in order to find what is it that caused disease within themselves, and not necessarily have to rely on that pill to calm them down. That people could actually take part in traditions and cultures that have been there from the beginning of time. In South America, ayahuasca was used by 70 different tribes all across South America without them even knowing that other tribes are using it.
That's
And the combination of the vine The combination of the ayahuasca vine and the chacruna leaf, that's like 1 in 6 million. How did they even find that out? So, and different tribes at different times spread across all of South America have been using this cocktail to see through. There's so much mystery going around this, and this is exciting. That is coming out right now, and it's taking part in the modern society. It goes back to saying that the thirst that we have as human beings to get connected to the source is even, people are more thirsty than ever. And I think it's that thirst that is going to create eventually change to the better, because they're just going to stop empowering those that are not a part of that. That's how I see it, but I'm not a politician. I'm not somebody who's attached to any movement or I just feel it, something that I feel inside. My work is to try to make films and tell stories that can indicate towards a door. It's your job to walk through that door and take it upon yourself to really want to see that which you are and evolve. There's nothing I can do but to provide the door. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Roz, no, that makes perfect sense. I think it's a good way to. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm sure you got crops that need to be tended to, so you can continue to
the water. Yeah,
the grid.
that time sunset over here, man.
If people want to follow you, and where would they go? And The Last Shaman is on Netflix. And anything else that you?
Yeah, not Last Shaman's on Netflix, and that's it. And the next film's coming soon. So I wish you the best of luck. Where were you in the army? Did you serve overseas?
I didn't.
Oh, all right.
Just...
Yeah, I've done 3.5 years in the army too, so I know how traumatic it could be. I've done 3.5 years back in the 80s. Yeah. But I wish you the best of luck, and all the viewers or all the people that are listening out there, the best of luck on your journeys. Really, make the wise choice. The ones that make this world a better place. That's it.
That's what we get, and that's hopefully with conversations like this, people that can inspire people the way you do and create the work that you have. It'll get a little bit easier. So thanks a lot for coming on the Green to do this.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.